Carolina, so we're going live right now. And can you just tell me like a little bit about yourself while I go live on
A-
Instagram?
Absolutely. So my name is Carolina Garibay. I am currently an anchor slash reporter at WBBM and Newsradio part-time. Been there for a little over a year, actually, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I graduated from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in 2022 with a degree in journalism. And before that, I went to high school at St. Ignatius College Prep in Chicago. So born and raised in Chicago. So throughout kind of my life, I've really been interested in writing, reporting, got into audio at the end of my college career. And then eventually that became my kind of professional job. So that's kind of where I am right now.
Okay. Let me just okay. Okay, do you hear the feedback coming through?
A little bit, a little bit.
That is really strange. Okay. Hold on a second. Feedback coming through.
A little bit, a little bit.
That's really strange. It's never happened before.
I wonder if there's like do you need to turn the sound off on one of them or something?
Really strange. It's never happened before. No, it's okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, it's because for the first time we're going live on Instagram.
Yeah.
So it was like feeding back. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, so you work at WBBM and you're a reporter, but I mean, did you work? Well, I know that you graduated from University of Illinois, Urbana, but did you work
Yeah.
anywhere else before this?
I did this. No, this was my first like job out of college. Yeah, I graduated in, May 2022 and went through the process that everyone goes through, sort of in a panic, looking for somewhere to work, especially in the media journalism world. And I kind of got lucky with the timing with BBM. Yeah, I looked at a couple places in Milwaukee. That wasn't very fruitful. And then this kind of opened up and it worked out. So that was good.
That's cool. And so how did you find out about BBM?
I think it was LinkedIn. I think my dad actually sent me the job, but I initially applied as an AP, an assistant producer. And then the hiring manager was like, "Hey, I think you should take a look at this reporting job we have open." So I didn't even see the reporting job until they brought it up to me. And I was like, "Yeah, this actually is kind of more on my career path. So let me try this out." And it ended up working out. So yeah, that was kind of got right into it very fast. And it's similar to what I did in college, but just on a bigger, faster pace scale, of course. So took some getting used to, and I feel like I was sort of still learning as I was in, training, and I feel like I'm still learning. But that was, yeah, it was exciting, but a little scary too, because you go right into it, and I mean, with reporting, you just kind of they throw you out there, and you get used to it as much as you can.
Yeah, how did you I mean when you went to BBM and you said, they throw you out there or whatever, how did you know what to do? Did anybody give you training or anything?
Sort of. It's tough, with reporting training because there's not like a guidebook where you like here's your book and here's the step by step what you do. So I did a lot of shadowing of the reporters and I would go out with them, see how they ask questions, how they use the equipment, all the technical stuff. And I was used to obviously reporting in school, but this was just a little different because of how fast paced it was. So I would go and shadow and see how they were doing stuff. And then one day my boss was like, "Okay, I'm going to send you to this." And that's kind of how it works. So you kind of take the training wheels off, go by yourself. And each time you cover something and cover different events and whatever you're covering, you kind of learn more things each time and figure out things that don't work in terms of equipment or you know, what you need to be bringing and what questions to ask and how early to get there, things like that. So each time you cover different events, you kind of learn something new. So that was helpful. You kind of it's a lot of teaching yourself or just learning on the job. But those basics you kind of get from the current reporters, and everyone gives you feedback too. And I would ask questions all the time to the long term reporters, and they would help out. So yeah, that's kind of how the training went. It was very, very fast.
Okay, so what are some things that you learned?
So I mean, there's a lot of just small technical things about like how to use like a malt box, which I had never used before. And so having a reporter be like, okay, so this is how it works, and here's how you test your levels, or sometimes you need to bring a mic stand because sometimes there isn't a rake, and that's something I didn't learn until I went and had to like hold the mic up there because I didn't have anything to do it. So like little small things like that. But then sometimes I mean, you get used to covering specific events, so sometimes there'll be like events at City Hall, which are pretty similar, and then there might be protests, which you kind of get how to cover those, and then there might be, um, I don't know, there might be something at like a lot of lawyers representing their clients will talk about something like that's a whole other little group. So, and you'll learn like how early should I get there to set my stuff up and things like that. But then going into the more journalism-y aspects, kind of learning what questions you want to ask, and you can kind of get an idea of what you're going to need to ask based on the event it is, and kind of things like that. So those are like some small things that I kind of just learned by myself. But then when it comes to the producing part, um, learning how to edit and edit more complex in like more complex ways, I would learn either from listening to other reporters and seeing what they did, or experimenting with my own stuff, or I'd ask actual questions to the reporters about, the best way to record this, or how should I write this, or do you think this lead is good, or um, a lot of kind of writing stylistic things I would ask the reporters for their help. So those are kind of some of the things I learned by myself, and then also from the help of other people on the job.
Okay, so what are some good tips that you got?
So, oh my gosh, there's so many. Well, I mean, there's a lot of stylistic things that I think vary between newsrooms, but there's just small things like trying to rewrite police copy a lot of the time. It can be very be very jargony. So trying to rewrite that so it doesn't sound like that. When they say the 4200 block of this whatever street, rewriting that to say this street and this street,
Right.
like small little things like that. Or I would ask a lot of just like in the lead, I would ask, does this sound right? Does this sound weird if I say this? Or um, just some of those things that, especially when I was new and I didn't know if my writing was like correct, I would do that. I don't do it as much now because I'm kind of more used to the style and things. And also when I would sometimes write stories and I would get feedback from some of the writers and they'd say, "Hey, just so you know, when you do, I don't know, when you say do this, you do it this way," or um some really important things like we don't name the person unless they've been charged. So a lot of stuff in the police and crime writing and legal writing as well that I kind of picked I had to learn because didn't really do that in college. So that was something very new for me. But that has been very helpful from the other reporters and writers who have been doing it for a longer time. That's just not something you're gonna know until you it kind of comes up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because some people they a lot of people want to go to big markets, but big markets have a
Yeah,
ton of crime. So you have to understand how to do
you
that.
totally do. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna be covering crime for sure, wherever, big city you go, or I mean, it's a whole beat itself. So yeah, it's something I've gotten. I mean, now it's kind of second nature to me to rewrite some of these police like press releases we get and things like that, which is good because it definitely took a little while. And yeah, you don't want there are things that could technically get you in trouble, so you need to learn
Yeah.
how to correctly write some of those things. So I learned that on the job for sure.
Yeah, because I've seen people take sort of shortcuts and it can be like it could be questionable. I mean, if it's not caught
Yeah,
before it goes on the air, so
right, for sure. You never know. There could be someone who calls, and I feel like I know it's happened, who will point something out because I don't know, you left out one word or didn't write it the exact way. So you just want to save yourself a little bit.
Well, yeah. So what did you do at school? Did you major in journalism
I
or?
did, yeah. So I majored in journalism and then I minored in Spanish and psychology. And the beginning of my college career was very just, I thought I was going to be in like newspaper or, kind of a typical newsroom. I didn't even really think about audio because I didn't know it was an option. So I did a lot of that, knew that I liked writing and journalism and interviewing. And then my junior year, I took an audio journalism class. And that was the first time I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. This is something new. I didn't know this was an option for me. So we did a whole bunch of stuff there, did a little bit of podcasting, playing around with podcasting, writing raps, cut copies, small, little things that you do in the real journalism world. And I ended up being A, really enjoying it, but B, being good at it. And that was something I didn't know I was good at, is using audio and editing it and telling stories that way. So that was really fun. And I think it was my senior year at the beginning, they started a new class called it was like a practicum class. So you're basically an intern for the local NPR station there, which is Illinois Public Media in Champaign-Urbana. And you basically are like it's class credit, but what you're doing is you're interviewing and producing stories and they go on the air and they're being edited by your teacher and approved by the um director of the station. And so you're actually producing stuff that goes on the air and it's airing
Wow.
and you get class credit for it. So that was something that's really new. That was called the Illinois Student Newsroom. And that's something that I is for sure like the whole reason I got the job I did as early as I did because it really prepared me for what I do now. And I pretty much did the same thing, just way faster pace now. But yeah, it's very, very similar stuff, and it prepared me really well. So I think that kind of helped me build up a huge portfolio of stories. I did some longer feature pieces, which I realize is kind of my favorite type of reporting to do. Even right now, I do very short stuff, but when I get the chance to do longer stuff on like one subject, that's kind of my wheelhouse. I've realized now. But that's kind of where I decided audio might be the thing for me. So, yeah. And then in my second semester, I went to compete in a journalism awards thing in San Francisco because of a story that I did at U of I that qualified me. So that was really fun. And I got second place there. And so that was kind of a whole nother experience that I was like, I didn't know this was something I could do either. So
Right.
kind of opened more doors up for me and just showed me, yeah, I can do this. This is something I'm good at and that I like doing. So that's how I decided, okay, I'm going to the audio route. This is this is what it is for me. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Your coworker, Lisa Fielding, just said on
Oh
Facebook, Carolina has been a wonderful addition to the
my gosh.
WBBM staff. Listen for her anchoring skills now. Yeah, I did want to ask you
Oh,
about the anchoring, but
yeah,
back
that's so
back to the
nice of her.
yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna ask you about that. But what about what was that San Francisco thing?
Yeah, so it was the Hearst Journalism Awards program. So it's every year they do it. So how it works is they have like the monthly competitions and my teacher told me he wanted to submit a couple of students. So I submitted a piece I did in Champaign-Urbana about dual language um, schools and how COVID affected language learning for, I think they were like fifth graders. Because a lot of students were really behind on their language learning due to COVID and learning a language online is really difficult. So that was something I did, and it was a really cool story. And that qualified me. I think I actually got sixth place in the like monthly program, but and one through fifth place is supposed to go, but whoever the fifth place person was already went last year, and you're not allowed to go like twice in a row, or who's graduating or something. So I got bumped up to fifth place
Oh, wow.
basically. Yeah, and was able to go. So yeah, so they have a several categories. There's writing, there's TV, there's like profile writing. So I was in the audio category with a couple other people from other schools. And so I met some really cool people, which was awesome. And we went to San Francisco, and the prompt was to talk about inflation in the Bay Area and just present that as an audio story. So I think you had like 2 days or something to go out and find your story. Um, so I went to this local farmers market in San Francisco and basically did my piece on small businesses and how they were being affected by inflation, rising prices, things like that. So that ended up being really, really good for Nat Sound, really good for people interviews, and yeah, put that all together. Did that, and I got second place, which was really cool.
Wow.
And it was really fun. It was such a cool experience. I'd never been to California, so I loved it. The San Francisco was so cool. And just being able to kind of be challenged in that way was really fun. So that's what happened there.
How
Very
long was
exciting.
how long was your piece that you
I
won
think it
second
was
place?
like, I think it was like, I don't even know. I think it was like 2 or 3 minutes. There was a limit, I think, on, how long it had to be. But yeah, not super long, but longer than your typical radio piece.
That's cool. And then I just want to say Neil Fiorito said on Facebook, "Hey guys, C Bay."
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's his nickname. Neil has the best nicknames, so I feel
That's
like
true.
I have a pretty good one.
Yeah, that's true.
That's awesome.
So, when you went there and then you went, okay, let me get back to the audio part because when you
Okay.
said you were in school and then you realized you loved audio or you're really good
Hmm.
at it, what is it about audio? Because I love audio. A
Yeah.
lot of us love
Yeah.
audio, but what is it that you love about audio?
Well, for me, first of all, for me, it's an easier way to consume news. For me, it's easier to listen to, a news podcast or a news piece and then have to sit down and read it. Also, I'm a multitasker, so if I can listen to my news or to whatever it is and do something else at the same time, go to the gym, cook, clean, whatever. Um, that's part of it. The other part is that I think it's just such a really unique and powerful way of storytelling, being able to hear someone say a quote versus reading it and, hear the emotion and the inflection in their voice. And then being able to incorporate Nat sound, which is one of my favorite
I love
things.
Nat Sound.
It's
Love it.
awesome. It's so
Love
cool.
Nat
Like,
Sound.
yeah. And being able to figure out, like, even the most simple stories is how can I make this
Yeah.
better with just like a little bit of Nat sound.
Yeah.
So, and that's something at school when you're being graded, you're graded on your net. Like if you don't have Nat sound, you're bumped down a grade. So it's always been in my mind where it's like you need to have Nat sound. And then of course at BBM, I mean, it just makes the story so much better. So being able to do that and really put yourself in the story, make you feel like you are there, that is so cool to me and just makes the storytelling more powerful and resonates a little more and sticks with me more than if you were to read it on paper. I'm also just I like playing around with audio. I'm like more of a creative person, so being able to have some flexibility and be creative while also storytelling and, being factual is really fun. I need a place to kind of express my creativity. So that's kind of where in producing, that's kind of where I like to do it. So it was just easier for me, honestly. It was easier for me to produce a story than to like write a long article. It's it just came more naturally to me. So that was the other part of it.
Well, do you have a website or something where you post more creative stuff?
Not really. I actually did have a website, but I'm making it better. Um, but I don't do as much stuff. I did some podcasting in college. I ran a arts and culture talk show every Wednesday. We did it for 2 hours. That was really fun
It was on
because
the college station or what station?
yeah, it was WPGU. So that's the alternative. Champaign-Urbana's alternative station, but also it's student run. So we that was fun because I love pop culture and music and things like that. So that was a fun way to talk about not like hard news. Um, but then during COVID, we turned it into like a podcast that we did remotely. So that was kind of fun to do as well. And I actually put together like this this funny intro for it on GarageBand that was really cool. So I kind of got to be creative there. I don't do as much like for like for fun creativity audio stuff. Um, but I kind of should, I'm, branch out a little bit, be creative and try something different. But yeah, that's kind of how I like to be creative and do stuff that way.
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of people just like they have work that they do, which is
Yeah.
more business oriented. Then they've got some
hmm
side thing going on. So
Yeah, not
they
really.
mess
I don't
around.
have time. I have a lot of I do like a lot of I'll work part-time at a wine bar by my house too. And so
What?
that yeah, so
Where?
that it's called Wine Styles. There's like it's right by my it's like not downtown because I still live kind of in the suburby area, but
Wait, you're a city person. I just want to make that clear. You live on the northwest side, I
yeah,
think.
I do.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, that's still the city. It's not the
It
suburbs.
is.
No.
It's right on the border, but it is the
Yeah,
city. I have a
yeah,
606 zip code, so
yeah.
yeah.
Because it's
But
definitely
yeah,
different. I know that area. It's definitely not the suburb. I mean, it's definitely different from the
no,
suburb.
no. Yeah,
Wow, I can't
it's
believe you have
close.
a part-time job in addition to your intense media job.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's a really good balance. It's so different, but I love that job. I love both my jobs. So it's fun to be able
Good.
to kind of do that. Um, so yeah.
Okay, so back to this U of I experience though. So they
Yeah.
have at that station where you can get on the air and do your stuff. Is it all students or what is
Yeah.
it? Wow.
Yeah, so I think so it was started by this my awesome audio teacher whose name is Chris Evans, and he since went to teach at Howard, which is awesome. But he started the Illinois Student Newsroom thing because we have all the he basically his thing was like we have all these talented journalism students and we're not using their talents on our local station over here. Like let's do a collaboration between the College of Media and the radio station. So he kind of started it, and it worked really well. I mean, it was a win-win because there's like I think they went from 10 student stories to like over 200 in the semester because of that program, because students were regularly contributing to it. And they all recently went to some conference. I don't even know. I need to look this up. But they recently had people from the newsroom go to this conference to talk about it because it's so cool and just the door that opened up for students and getting their work on the air. So, yeah, that was really awesome. But it was all students, and I think since he left, it's become more of a I think students are actually getting paid now and kind of it's more like an internship, but they're
Good.
still able to produce stuff and put it on the air. But my second semester of my senior year, I went from being a reporter to a student producer. So that was more of a mentor position where you get assigned like a couple students and you work with them to come up with story ideas and produce stuff, and they kind of be the go-between between, you and then the teacher. So um that was really fun too, getting to have like a mentor role for some students. But yeah, that was awesome. That was like the highlight, probably like the career or academic highlight of my college career.
Now, who does the quality control when all these students submit their stuff?
I know. So every student has a student producer. I think there's like two. So it goes to their student producer first, who makes edits, and then it goes to the teacher. So that was Chris, the instructor, and then he makes more edits, make sure it's good. And I think he's the last. I think technically the like program director looks over it, but once the teacher has eyes on it, it's pretty good to go. So that he's pretty much running the whole thing.
Wow. And then what did you do so you said you did reporting down there. What was it
Yeah,
like to report down there? I mean,
it
versus
was
Chicago.
interesting. I mean, we tried to, I mean, it's such a smaller, more obviously kind of um rural area. So I think Illinois Public Media covered a couple other towns, but we tried to stay within the Champaign-Urbana. And we did have what was cool about it is the students did have a lot more kind of access and just ability to cover some things that some of the full-time professional reporters didn't. So I mean, we like to do a lot of obviously campus stuff, but at the same time tried to not just focus on the campus because we had a student newspaper as well, which I also did. So we didn't want to just cover the exact same things they're doing. So it was kind of, I had trouble actually coming up sometimes with story ideas because I mean, it's not like you get sent stuff to you all the time, like how we get sent news releases and there are meetings all the time and things going on. So it was a lot of having to proactively look for stories or, you know, if like a protest, I covered a couple of women's marches there, so like those are easy to be able to go to. But then there are just some other things that you really have to look for or kind of come up with. So when it's not a student or when it's not like a school-oriented story, that was a little harder to find. So, like, I think we covered a couple things in the school district sometimes. I did a story about like this phishing email that teachers were sent, and some teachers were like mad about it because it was kind of a dumb email. So yeah, I went to like one of the teacher meetings and stood outside and talked to some teachers. So that was cool. Like that was more of what something I would do in Chicago. So but a lot of stuff was student focused and like school focused on things going on. But it was interesting. It's actually, I think it's easier here because there's just way more stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's good that you got that training down there because
Yeah.
a lot of, a good reporter is somebody who finds the stories. I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
and I know that at U of I they have this excellent data. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like some kind of data center, data reporting or
Um,
something.
I don't know. There are so many resources there,
Yeah.
but
But for
I mean,
reporting they have, yeah.
we did have that was one of the the biggest issues that we faced as student producers was students aren't coming up with story ideas. And that's something that obviously is huge. Like it's a very basic thing. Um, so at our meeting with the teacher, we would have like an hour where we would go and find stories and just come up with them. And like there was one, it was amid um the war like in Ukraine, and it was someone was putting up a billboard with sunflowers as a way to show support, and they were just like you would just randomly see sunflower billboards, and someone had posted about it on Facebook group, which has been a really good place in Champaign to find stories. And someone had posted about it and was like, "What is this?" And that was a story that I found through the Facebook group of people being like, "Oh, I think it's this company doing this." So, you know, that was a way to do it, but it really forces you to, yeah, go into the community and see what's going on and try to craft a cool story that you can do and that a student could realistically be assigned.
That's good. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
good. I mean, and it also makes you more disciplined in terms of being a
Yeah.
reporter. Because then when you do come up here when it's easier, you're not always chasing the obvious stories.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Some things might come up or you'll find a new angle on a story people are covering. So,
So then, when you did come up here, okay, I know you're from Chicago and you went to like you're really a city person, which there
yeah,
aren't
for
many
sure.
people I've met. There aren't many people I met who grew up in the city
Yeah.
and know the city, but
Yeah.
which is sort of weird for
I'm so
Chicago
grateful. Yeah.
journalism.
I'm so grateful for that. It's
Yeah.
being able to like use public transportation and I don't know, just be like literate in in the city landscape has been very helpful.
Yeah, because I met a number of people. I mean, now there are some people, like I used to work at BBM, and yes, there are a number of
Yeah.
people who live in the city,
Yeah.
but rarely have I met somebody who actually grew up in the city and they
Hmm.
work in the city. So they sort of have a different view of Chicago. They're sort of like commuting to Chicago and then going back home to their suburb or whatever. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so what are some things that you've learned about the city, being from the city?
Yeah. There's so much. It's crazy. Well, public transportation is the first one. I started taking like, well, I would take Metro down to high school, and then I'd take the bus, the CTA bus to school. And a lot of kids did that. So it was like all these teenagers at once kind of doing this together. But that made me more comfortable when I would just come here to hang out and be able to take the bus or the L or whatever. So that was one of them. The other one is kind of just knowing, I mean, when I was so young and commuting, my parents always made it clear of like what neighborhoods you should not be in, past this time or by yourself or whatever. So that has been, something, you learn about what areas maybe are safer than others. And then as a reporter, you go into those neighborhoods, which is
Of
something,
course.
right?
Yeah.
So, but also, as a reporter, kind of going off topic, I've like explored so many neighborhoods that I have never explored before, or just, I don't know, haven't had the chance to go to because I don't get to do that a lot. So that's something that has been really fun. Kind of getting me out there to like all parts of the city and not just downtown or not just the neighborhoods right where I live. But that's been really cool. But yeah, I think being from the city is a huge advantage and being a reporter because some of the, I don't know, some of the cultural, um, how do I put it? Just like some of the history, some of the backstory of the city, and I'm a big theater person, so I know I grew up with the theater scene as well, which has been helpful.
Now, are you talking
Um,
about like the independent theater? Or are you talking about
Kind of
the
both.
Broadway?
Mostly,
Okay.
I did mostly Broadway in Chicago, but um, you know, but more recently, kind of exploring some of the smaller theaters and some of the, not Broadway in Chicago stuff. But
But you used to come downtown to see theater?
oh yeah, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And still, I mean, I still do, but yeah, so that's like kind of knowing the small things about that. I just knowing some of the landmarks and um just yeah, just being able to grow up in the city and know yeah, I don't know how to explain it. But there's just something that as you grow up, you're kind of absorbing the city and its history and its culture and its people. And that's something I don't, it's hard to learn when going in if you're not from here. Um, it's hard to learn that. So that has been really helpful. It's kind of like, um, so yeah, I didn't take any opportunity to bring up Taylor Swift, but like I did a Taylor Swift story in June when she was coming, or May when she was in Chicago, and I did a story about like um how a bunch of scalpers were scamming fans, and specifically fans who were trying to come to Chicago. So I did like a story on that, and being a Swiftie had me like I had all this background and knowledge about the situation and was able to kind of, I mean, for me, it was like the easiest story to do. So it's kind of like that when you have just like this background, you're just kind of bored. You just have this knowledge that you can't really learn if you weren't from here or, and it's a big advantage, which is why when people say like, do you ever want to like move out of Chicago? I was like, no, no. Why would I? I don't know. Why would I want to go to a big city that I've never been to and then have to like relearn all of the stuff about the city? It's just to me, it just made sense to be a reporter here. And I love the city. It's like the best city in the world. So
Okay, so you love the
yeah.
city even though we know the negative news about the city. Okay,
Yeah.
so how do you feel about the negative news about the city, you being from the city and
Yeah.
growing up on the L, etc. Or the bus, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who's from here, I think, just knows that a lot of the criticism is either from people in the suburbs or people who don't live here. Um, it gets a totally bad rap. But if you look at, and I mean, if you look at data and statistics, you'll find that Chicago is not, it's like, I think St. Louis is like the most dangerous city in the world or something, or I don't know what the exact terms are, but Chicago's not even close to some of the other cities. Um, I know, where it's getting that bad rep from and where every city is dangerous in some way and you need to be
Right.
smart about, where you're going and what you're doing. So I know there are some, specific neighborhoods that have a lot more crime or face a lot of other issues that are mostly due to a lot of historical things um and that's not something that I think people think about a lot. I think it's easy to be like, oh yeah, Chicago is a dangerous city, but I've never really felt unsafe or have had anything happen to me because I don't know. You grow up knowing, being smart about, street smart about where to go and um when to safely commute and things like that. So I don't like that. Like I don't like when people say that, obviously it bothers me. And it's like it's the, their loss on not coming to the city. But you just got to be smart, and there are issues for sure with crime. Um,
Well, what about when you go to these certain areas to cover stories where the crime is intense? The areas I'm
yeah,
talking.
for sure. Yeah, I've been to a few, and I'm usually going during the day. First of all, it's usually a press conference or organized thing. So there's a ton of people there, and um, yeah, it's I've never really gone and felt like, oh, I feel really unsafe, like I don't want to be here. Um, it's usually things like that where there's something going on, so it's not like you're by yourself
Right.
and there's no one around you. And a lot of those stories too are about someone trying to do something good in the community. So it's like, oh, we've introduced this program to bring like free Narcan to this neighborhood, or it's I did like a feature on a group that um I think in the West Garfield Park neighborhood that is working to address opioid addiction in the neighborhood, which is historically that's been a really big issue there. So it's things like that, people that are doing kind of good and are trying to correct some of that. So like of the systemic issues that have kind of led to that happening. So I don't ever really feel unsafe or have like an issue going down there at all. And again, it's always during the day. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been like past like 3 p.m. Um, and it's always some type of event that's happening. So I
Yeah,
always feel
because
fine.
yeah, you mean there are good things happening in dangerous areas of the city? Oh my gosh, shocker. I'm joking.
Right?
I'm being
Yeah,
sarcastic. I'm
I
being
know, right?
sarcastic.
No,
Yeah.
but it's interesting. Yeah, it was a little like I didn't realize where I was going was like that dangerous until like after
Yeah.
I was there, and then as you read more about crime and kind of where it happens and about issues, and you're like, oh, I was there.
Right.
Um, so, but yeah, it hasn't really been an issue. I haven't been worried about it. So I think you
Yeah.
kind of expect that as a reporter to do that, to go to those areas, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so Lisa mentioned, well no, okay, actually I want to talk about your anchoring, but I do want to touch on a couple of things. You mentioned the newspaper at U of I. What
Yeah,
was that? Okay, what was that like? What's it
that
like to
was
work for a
so.
newspaper? Or
Yeah,
not
it's
work,
called
I'm
the
sorry,
Daily.
do stories.
Yeah, so that was called the Daily Illini, and I did that my entirety of my college career. So I started as just a writer. I wrote for our section called Buzz, which is the arts and culture section. So I started that, and then I became the Buzz editor, and that was awesome. It was so fun. I love doing that. And I met some of my best friends now at the
Uh-huh.
newspaper. It taught me
And
a
these are
lot of
U of
my,
I? And these are U of I
yeah,
people? Okay.
yeah. So it taught me my basic interviewing skills, and because that was like the first time I ever did an interview and a story was there for that newspaper. So I learned that. I learned a lot of the basics of writing. Obviously, I was learning at my class, but then being able to actually like apply it. And it also that was the first time I worked in like a newsroom, and wasn't a professional newsroom, but it was, set up like a newsroom, and worked with an editor and with a staff, and an editor in chief. So that was really cool. And then as I became, got older and started doing that more, I got more comfortable in bringing up ideas and story ideas and things like that. I covered Lollapalooza there, which was really fun. Um, Covered a lot of concerts, and interviewed a lot of like musicians and stuff. And yeah, like I interviewed Penn Badgley, who is from the U show, and that was really like a huge thing for me. I interviewed Steve from Blue's Clues once, which was also really huge. My mom was really excited. So like that was really cool because I would not have been able to do that. I don't know if I didn't. And those were all things that I seeked out, that I went and tracked down the PR person and was like, "Can we please do an interview?" Because it was cool to be able to do that, and to do that for the newspaper. So that's kind of where I learned like all the basics of interviewing. I did a couple like movie reviews too, and album reviews, so that was also fun. I don't really do that anymore, but that was kind of exciting to be able to do that. It was awesome. It was so fun, and it was
Yeah, because
also
I
a lot
think
of work. Yeah.
yeah, because I think that people what they do is they experience more feature type stuff in school
Yeah,
because that's their audience, and then they go to a different market. They start getting into business and they're like, wait, I can't do features, and it's like,
I know.
yeah, you got to work your way up to features, or you may not be able to get to do them because there's a lot of
Right.
other stuff to cover.
Yeah, you kind of have to know what you're, and I knew that. I wasn't going to like I knew I wasn't going to be writing big features also because I was doing this radio audio stuff, and that's what I knew I liked doing. Um, was that like shorter form, was that, audio stuff. So I knew that wasn't what I was going to be doing, but I still get to do like some features in this job. Um, we do like some feature pieces, and um, that's really fun. So there is flexibility to be able to do that. And like I try as much as I can to do some arts and culture focused stories in Chicago because there's so much, like there's just so much, and do some theater stuff. And that is all that interviewing and writing is stuff I learned in college for sure when I was writing for like the arts and culture section. So that was really cool. And then now I'm actually on the board for Illini Media, which kind of oversees the newspaper, the radio station, and the yearbook at U of I. So I love that. I love that newspaper and the radio station. And yeah, it was like a huge part of my college career. I made so many friends. We would have like little get-togethers with all the editors and stuff. Um, it was a really good experience. I love doing that.
Well, being on the board, do you have to go down to U of I sometimes to do
Not
stuff?
yes, not that often. I went last February for a board retreat we did, so it was like this a whole day thing that we were doing, and then I'll probably go down at some point this upcoming semester because um the radio station like student director mentioned it would be cool if I came down and did some like training or some type of little crash course thing. So yeah, so little things like that are fun because we do a lot of mentoring as well with the students. So yeah, I love going down there. I was just there for homecoming. That was not you like Atlanta Media related, but yeah, anytime I get to go down there, I will for sure.
Yeah, it's such an incredible campus, and that
It's the
because I was there
best.
recently. Yeah,
Yeah,
and the program is amazing. I mean, the
yeah,
resources and the journalism they're doing, like that data one was very impressive. But even the other stuff that you're talking about, I know what you're talking about. They look for
yeah,
stories, and yeah, I really
right.
recommend people if they want to get into journalism to go
For
there.
sure. And it's a huge school, but
Yeah.
the College of Media is pretty small and the journalism major is small. Like I knew a lot of the students in my classes. I would see them all the time, in other classes because it's a pretty small college, and you get really good kind of one-on-one teaching with professors. So that was another thing is all my teachers, I felt really comfortable going up and asking them for questions or whatever it was because and it was easy. They were approachable, and it wasn't like they had 100 students in a class all the time. It was pretty really small. And then when you get into like your more specialized um whatever it is, like audio or sports or whatever it is, then it's even smaller. So, or TV. Yeah, that's the other thing. We have some really good TV reporters who have come out of the journalism program as well.
Yeah, and then I did interview somebody from there. She used to work for MSNBC. She was a reporter.
Okay,
She
cool.
was a producer for many years, but
Yeah.
yeah, and also another thing I noticed about U of I, and maybe this has changed over the years since many years ago, but the students seem really smart.
Yeah, they
It's not
are.
like
And it's
yeah.
Yeah, and well, U of I was not my first choice, and it was sort of my safety school. My parents both went there. My brother went there. My aunt went there. So it was very much like, oh, I'll go here, but I'd rather like go, I don't know, somewhere that's not in Illinois or a lot of students who are applying or want to get out of where they're sometimes just want to get out of where they're from the state, and that was kind of me. But it ended up being the cheapest option and like the easiest. I could go home whenever I wanted, really, and it was super simple to do that, and I didn't have to fly and figure out storage space for my stuff. Like, and then I went and ended up being like the best decision. It's so awesome. And I loved that it was so college, it was very college campus
Yeah.
vibes versus I think at one point I wanted to go to NYU. I didn't apply, but then I visited later a friend who did go there and I was like, I don't know if I would have liked this. I
Mhm.
kind of like the separation of my city and then having a very clear college campus kind of area. So it was really good for me. And then I always was excited to come back home to the city and be like in a city kind of area. So it was really nice. Love that school.
Yeah,
So
because
good.
NYU is definitely in the middle of New York City. Plus, Manhattan is
Yeah,
like so intense,
it
and
is. It's yeah.
but
It's
another, yeah,
yeah.
that's the thing is that you may be from Chicago, but when you go to U of I, it is so different. It's like we might as well just be in a different state. I mean, that's how I felt when I
It
went
pretty
there
much
recently.
and there's so many people from other states and from other countries too.
Yeah.
And like I've met a couple of people who are like from California, and I was like, why are you here? And it's usually because they just wanted something different. But yeah, it's this whole other, it's a totally other kind of world. It feels like you're in your own little like bubble, which is
Yeah.
why it was so hard to graduate and to come back. And I get really nostalgic, like so much nostalgia when I go back, but it's the best.
That's good. Well, at least you have a connection there and it's not far. You can
Oh, for
always go
sure.
down.
Yeah. And I like that's why like I cared so much about the university and the student paper that I wanted to stay involved and make the paper like better for students who are coming in. And I love even since I went, I just went like when I was at homecoming, they had like a little open house thingy at the office, and I went there, and it was so cool to see like just how much they've grown and the work they've been doing. And we went through this whole like transitioning to online and like less printing, and that was this whole really hard thing to deal with when you're a student and like have a million other things going on. But kind of seeing them to take that and take kind of what we laid down, like foundations we laid down, and build on it and just create this really cool work has been really awesome. So yeah.
Now, how come you didn't go to a smaller market before going to Chicago?
I
Like, how
don't
come you didn't want to
know.
experience something else?
Well, that's interesting
Or even
because
St. Louis or whatever.
well, I like very fully prepared to have to do that. Everyone tells you, oh, you're gonna have to start in, I don't know, in like a small town here or there or wherever. And I did want to do that. I was looking, but I just didn't find anything that interested me. And then this came up and I was like, why not? It wasn't really a decision where I wanted to skip that. It just was the opportunity that I felt that I wanted to, and I applied for, I didn't care how many years experience. I just applied to literally everything, which is something I also recommend because I'm pretty sure a lot of applications say, I don't know, 3, 5 years professional experience. I had, I guess, zero, and I still was able to do this job. So I just applied for everything, and this ended up working out, and I didn't have to move, and I lived here, so I felt like that I talked about earlier was an advantage of already knowing the city. So that ended up working out. It just kind of happened. So I feel very lucky because I know a lot of people have worked, have not been able to do that. So
But it sounds
yeah,
like,
but I
but it
did.
sounds
Yeah.
like, but it sounds like you were very productive when you were a student. And plus, you said you went to that San Francisco. You probably
Yeah,
won that award in San Francisco, et cetera.
yeah, I had a lot of opportunities in at U of I that really prepared me, I think, and I think help current student. I've, talked to some students who are still there. I told them you're going to really stand out because of this program and because of like a lot of students don't have a list of audio stories that they could say aired on the radio and has this experience of going out and interviewing and collecting um, news and then producing it. So that was something new that I think U of I really prepared me for that I don't know if I would have gotten if I went somewhere else. So that was a huge game changer for me.
And then, so what about anchoring? You just started anchoring?
Yeah, I've been training the past couple weeks. So that's another thing where we were talking about training. It's kind of like weird in journalism because there is no, you kind of just you go into it, and that's the best way to do it. So I've been training and just going. I've been started with just watching the anchors do their thing, and then you start with either you run the board while they anchor, and then you switch, you anchor, and they run the board, and then you put it together. So that's what I did, and it was really scary. I won't lie. It was a very, it's a very nerve-wracking thing, but
Well,
it
the
went
clock
well.
is so tight. The
Oh,
clock
it's
is so
yeah.
tight.
There's a little you kind of I it's so I this is something I never thought I'd be able to do. I was like, this is not something that I in college ever thought about doing or was like, I really want to be doing this. It just I had no idea. So it was really cool to learn something that I did not think I would be able to do. So, but yeah, the clock I mean, it's all about timing. You're so aware of the clock. Um, and I literally just I haven't done it a lot. I just did Christmas Day and then a couple like training shifts before, but it's not easy. I like they make it look so easy, but it's a lot of multitasking. So,
Yeah, that's true. And but I was gonna say that I think that there's not a lot of training opportunities you're saying in journalism, but I think it's just today there are like a normal company. I'm not saying I'm saying outside of
yeah.
journalism. Normal companies have training and they
Oh
set
yeah.
aside training, but journalism, media companies don't seem to put that time aside or the money.
Well,
So I
it's
think that's
like
the issue.
and that's something that I think we've talked about is like how can we better have a training program like you're right. Like there's no like slideshow video where you sit down and you like go through and there's rules and like a guidebook on how to do this or a guidebook on how to edit.
Right.
Um and I think that's true in a lot of places. I don't know, but and with anchoring it's even harder because there's no like practice thing. Like it's kind of hard to practice. You kind of have to just do it.
Yeah.
So if there were some type of like simulation or something where you could pretend you're on like and just run a show but not be on air, you know?
Mhm.
Or I don't if you could watch videos back. What I did is actually record I had like my phone recorded and when I anchored I recorded me and then I went back and watched it
Mhm.
to see like where I messed up and what was easiest. And I literally wrote out like same with the when I was training with the anchors, I wrote out a full like script of what they said.
Mhm.
Um, and that's something that, didn't exist. So if there was like a video or like a small little script or different ways or like versions of scripts of how you can say this or that, but it's tough. And I think most people are used to just um kind of being thrown into it and going on the air or going out into the field. But yeah, it's training it with journalism is very interesting. It's tough.
Yeah, well, see, I think that's why I think a lot of people in journalism, they don't realize that they're superhumans because there's so much scrutiny and criticism and deadlines and so much intensity that people think, oh, I'm not measuring up. But then when you go to the
Right.
non-journalism world, it's like, gosh, journalists can crush it in anything. Seriously. I'm thinking of writing a
Yeah.
post about it on LinkedIn
Yeah.
because
Oh, you should.
the things you
For sure.
learn, yeah. I think that people would be able, I think most people would be able, most people coming out of journalism, they would be able to do any job and they do it better than anybody else and they'd meet all the deadlines perfectly. Because sometimes
Right.
sometimes your deadlines are like half an hour or 30 seconds or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally. Yeah. Actually. Um, I mean, I've thought about this a lot and I try not to be like, I try to like stay humble about it, but it's like this job is really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and they're just, especially with work from home now, it's like, I've never worked from home and I don't really want to, like that's not it's so interesting with that and seeing how that's kind of played out, the whole work from home situation. And I've talked about this with some of my colleagues. Like we could never work from home. Like you can't really except for like COVID when they were literally anchoring like remotely.
Mhm.
We can't do that. It's a really disciplined kind of high stakes career.
Yes.
And you kind of have to accept in that and recognize that when you go into it, or it's going to be tough. But I'm okay with that. You know, like I like that. I like that my job feels really important. And that was the whole thing of why I wanted to do journalism, because I wanted to like see my work making an impact or doing something and mattering. So, and this job is like one of the biggest ones where I think you see that happen, you know? So for me, that was like, that's the why I did it. And that's cool. And I like that. And again, I was also talking with with Lisa, actually. We were saying about how people think we're like, you're like the coolest person too, if you're a journalist or you do podcasting or whatever it is. Like, it's so cool. You go to a party and you tell people what you do, and you're like the coolest person there because no one else is doing that. So, like, that's also really fun to be able to do something that not a lot of people can do or are doing. So, that's the fun part.
Yeah, and also another thing about journalism is the skills are so special and you have to think on your feet. And
Yeah.
that's why I say it's like he's superhuman. And also
Yeah.
just the writing, because a lot of people are very critical about the writing, but it's because people are going to listen to it. You can't just go back and fix it because it's already
Right.
been out. So,
Yeah, writing is huge, and it's so crazy how many people you like meet who don't know how to write too. And that's why I told everybody like writing is like the biggest. I'm so glad I learned how to write and how to write well. Like even in high school I was taking like AP English because I wanted to know how to write, and it's paid off a lot. And I think in any career, if you can write better than like above average, I think you're already like way better off than other people because some people just yeah, it doesn't come easy for a lot of people being able to write.
yeah. But yeah, what do you think? What advice do you have for people who are because you said you talk to students. What advice do you have for people who want to get into the
Yeah.
business?
I still feel like I'm learning too, so I don't even feel like I can give advice because I still feel like a student like every day. I saw this thing that was like so I was in college during COVID. I think I was a junior and I saw something that was like whatever age you were during COVID is like the age you still feel now, like you still feel stuck there. So I was like
Why is that?
20,
Well, why is it? Let's
I
go.
don't
Why is
know.
that?
I think it's because you like your life wasn't like fully lived out to what it could be, the potential, so you still feel like you're reaching some type of potential. So I was like 20, 21. I don't know. I don't know what age I was. So I honestly still feel like a college student sometimes when I'm in this industry. But if I had to give advice to students, I think it would be to stay really open-minded about your opportunities. I had no idea audio was a thing that I could do until I took the class and ended up having that be what I wanted to do. I think literally go experience every single part of journalism, whether it's audio or TV or like writing, newspaper writing, try it all and see what you like best and what you're best at. Because you don't know like what opportunities and what you're gonna enjoy or what you might be good at, what kind of skills you'll discover. So that's definitely one of them. Um, and the other one is sort of I don't know if it's good advice, but I tried to say yeah and still do try to say yes to everything. So, can you go cover this story? Yeah, I'll do it. Can you do this, that? Yeah, I'll do it. Obviously, respecting your like boundaries and your time, but as much as you can, that kind of goes with being open-minded, but just like saying yes and being the person who can be reliable, because that's especially in journalism, that's a really big thing. Um, Someone that people can count on, that people can trust. So those are some big ones that I've tried to do, and there's no room for like laziness or for doing the work halfway in journalism. Like you really have to be committed. So I think those are a couple things that I would say that come to the top of my mind. I'm sure after this I'll be like, oh, I should have said this and that, but that happens every time.
Right. But also, I mean, well, you're saying you say yes, but also it's not like you've been in the business for like 30
That's what I'm
years. I
saying.
mean,
Yeah. Like I
yeah.
don't even feel like I could give like
No, but what I
advice
mean
because
is, but you're
I'm
saying, no,
still
but I think it's important, like when you're younger, I think it is
Yeah.
important to say yes. Now, of course, you are being paid. I mean, what's good about BBM
Yeah.
is it's a union, so you do
Yeah.
have those safeguards.
Right.
So
It's
you
very
can't be
helpful.
abused. Yeah. So you
Right.
can't be exploited.
Yeah. I
Um,
think the other thing I'd say to students is what I was saying earlier is like apply for any job, even if it says you need like 10 years experience, just apply anyway. And have a really good cover letter. That's something I actually got a compliment one time by a hiring person on my cover letter. So that was cool. Put some thought and work into that and just apply because you have no idea. I always just say like the worst that could happen is you get rejected, which happens all the time. So,
yeah.
yeah.
But then also another thing is the features, you're talking about covering features so much, and then
Yeah.
you're talking about covering hard news. But I mean, is there a point when you just want to do features or do you like doing both?
I like doing both right now. It would be cool. I have no idea. I like doing both because and there's a way to kind of like mesh them sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think I love doing features and it would be cool to of course to do more.
Yeah.
Um but I also know, my job is as a reporter is to cover the hard news. So that's what I'm prepared and want to do. Yeah.
Okay. And then also another thing is what about speaking on the air, like broadcasting, the broadcasting part? How did you learn how to do that? Or,
Yeah, that was
have you learned new things about it?
well, I that was fun. I think part of that was I never like worked on a radio voice, or a lot of people have asked me, "How did you find your radio voice?" I didn't really find it. I kind of just talk. And you try to sound authoritative and confident and but I didn't really work on it or um do that. I kind of just read with the confidence that I thought needed you need to have as someone who's, broadcasting or reading news, and it kind of just develops over time. And if you listen to my stuff like even a year ago, it sounds wildly different
Yeah.
than now, and I'm sure next year it'll sound really different again. So, I think it's always developing, and there's no right or wrong way to read news. Like, I think if you don't think you have a reporter voice or broadcast voice, it doesn't matter. Like, just do it anyway. Because what people like is a person reading their news, like who sounds like a person, and you don't want to hear a robot talk or like your Siri on your phone read the news to you. You want to hear a real human being and someone with some personality. So I think that's what, oh my gosh, some of our reporters are so good. Like
Mhm.
they sound so, especially when anchoring, which could be kind of difficult because you're doing so many things at once. But I think that's what people like to hear. So that was something I kind of, I'm still working on is just getting just reading it confidently and sounding like you're confident, even if you're not, just, pretending you are. And then eventually you will be confident. That's kind of what I have been doing. But that's how I did my voice.
Because I mean, because there are different styles. Like you got the NPR style, which is more
Right.
mellow, and then you've got commercial broadcasting tends to be more energetic.
Yeah.
So
I
that's why
feel
certain
like
people don't fit.
yeah, you kind of need to know, yeah, what the style is. And I haven't really done a lot of other stuff. So I've pretty much used the same technique the entirety of since when I like started speaking, like reading news. So, and it's worked out for me pretty well. I'm sure, if I was somewhere else and if I was at like I don't know, at BEZ or something, I'm sure it would be different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It just kind of comes, it just kind of happens. And I don't think there's like a right or wrong way to do it.
And anything else? And apologies to people who watched this. And at the beginning, there was like a lot of feedback because it was Instagram. It was Instagram on my screen, being on the air. But anything else?
All good. Yeah, I think for anyone who's looking to or even considering journalism, like just give it a go and see if you like it. It's definitely not for everyone, but if it's a job for me that has just been so rewarding and being able to use my what I've learned in school and my skills and being able to tell stories in an interesting way. And I've gotten emails and like actual written notes from people that have been like, thanks so much for featuring our, you know, whatever on BBM, or thanks so much for reaching out and letting me tell my story about this. And it's a really cool job where you get that kind of feedback and you see the work that you're doing. 'Cause it sometimes could be like you sometimes don't get a lot of feedback about what you're doing, or you sometimes don't know how you're doing, but once you kind of get those messages from people, it kind of just like validates the work you're doing. So I love this industry. It's not easy. You have to be, like I said earlier, disciplined and passionate about the work. But if you are, then I think you'll do really well. So I recommend this to anyone. And if you're a student who is looking for somewhere to go, I recommend U of I.
Yeah, it seems really good. Like, especially since I went
Yeah,
down there for the INBA conference. It was
yeah,
incredible. I was really impressed. But oh
yeah.
yeah, would you ever want to do TV? Like, what do you think about
No,
TV? No. Okay, why
no,
not?
not for me. I literally think TV. So how you said journalists are like superhumans. I think TV people are like even more superhumans to me. I don't know how they do it. My One of my really good friends who went to U of I and did TV there is at WCIA, and she's like, I don't get how she does it. I don't like being in front of a camera
Yeah.
like that. So that was like honestly the main thing is I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to like wear a dress or look like nice on TV or put makeup on every day. So
Or be like
that's
super
honestly the
skinny because TV makes you look
yeah.
heavier. So it's like you've got to be really
Well,
careful.
and people have I know like a lot of the reporters at BBM used to be TV, and they'll tell me some of the stories of people just saying mean things to you. And I don't need that. So that was honestly the main thing for me is that I wanted to, and I also just like I'm also not really good with video and that kind of thing. I was always better with just audio. So it
Yeah.
just that's what worked for me. But if you are on TV, I don't understand. It seems so hard. Um, so that's really cool. I applaud anyone who is on TV because I just don't think I could do it.
Yeah, the best advice I've gotten about video is the key to good video is good audio.
Yeah,
So even if
that
people are
makes
creating video,
sense.
make sure your audio's in check. Yeah, because
Right.
I've seen videos. I'm like, did they hook themselves up to anything? Because it's a room
Right?
noise. Yeah.
For sure. That's
Well,
good.
I guess let me see. So I'm just trying to think. I think I asked you all the questions, but is there anything else you want to share? I know I said this, I'll ask you already, but is there anything else you want to share that we didn't touch upon that you just realized you want to talk about?
I don't think so, but I know that 2 seconds after this, I'll be like, oh, dang it, I should have said this.
Well, you could
But I
always
think
put it in the comments.
I think I've got everything though. Yeah, this was really cool. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, sure. Now I'm gonna stop the stream.